I have a bit of a problem. After years of packing my backpacks for tech events, I've developed an obsession with lightness. While I've generally been able to shrink my load down over the years, there's one particular elephant in the room I haven't been able to do without. You see, the problem is, even with laptops that are marketed as ultra portable, they still weigh well over 1 kilogram and they don't really fit in my preferred EDC. Which is why for the past couple of years, I've been trying to replace this big, bulky laptop with an iPad. Because with an iPad, ta-da! But the thing is, there was always a compromise. Sometimes it was performance, sometimes it's the way you interact with an iPad, and sometimes it's the limited software. Then Apple launched this, the iPad Pro 12.9-inch, and it was almost like the stars aligned. It has the same processor Apple puts into their MacBooks, it has a technologically advanced mini LED display, it has a proper keyboard and trackpad interface, plus software that's way closer to the functionality of a laptop than it ever was. So, problem solved? Well, yes, but also no. I am a content creator, so I use my laptop mainly for document processing, web browsing, photo and video editing. It's not a particularly taxing workload, but speed is very important to my creative process. On paper, the M1 iPad Pro should be more than enough for what I need. And if we're talking about performance, that is absolutely the truth. There wasn't a single thing I could throw at it in my regular workload that will cause it to slow down or freeze up. It is truly the most powerful iPad I've used, all while keeping to the iPad's solid battery life. When it comes to the display, the new mini LED panel is way better than your typical LCD screen on an ultra-portable laptop. Its resolution of 2732 by 2048 pixels means that it's also going to be sharper than anything that doesn't have a 4K panel. And with ProMotion, it's probably faster too. Plus, the mini LED array means that you get excellent local dimming this side of an OLED with phenomenal peak brightness of 1600 nits. It's a stunning screen and one whose media consumption experience is only further enhanced by the quad speakers flanking it. Speakers which are definitely better than any Windows laptop I've used before. But we know this, these are iPad things, and these are things that this iPad Pro does better than anything else in its class. The biggest weakness for the iPad as a laptop replacement was always its software and interface. With the iPad, no matter how much power or screen or speaker or whatever else Apple added, the problem always came back to it's just an iPad. And the main reason for that is due to iPadOS. This tablet-only operating system was never as fully featured as macOS, and while it's probably the best operating system for a conventional tablet, it was still very limited if you wanted to treat it like a laptop. But Apple knows this, and the recent couple of iterations of this operating system has done a lot to address its shortcomings. I use this device mostly on iPadOS 14, but have recently upgraded to iPadOS 15, and I gotta say, it's definitely the best it has ever been as a productivity device. One of the main things I need to get my work done is a robust multi-window multitasking interface, and I think that the iPad absolutely nails it for a mobile device, especially with iPadOS 15. Snapping windows and creating new split view spaces is very intuitive. I also love the fact that I can always pull in my floating windows from the side, even in split view, which was something I actually couldn't even do on the MacBook Pro 16 when I reviewed it last. In fact, I think that they've done such a good job with the multi-window multitasking that I ended up enjoying working on the iPad Pro more than I did working on the MacBook Pro 16. Then there's the new Magic Keyboard with its touchpad, and as far as interfacing with the iPad goes, this is the biggest update. As a keyboard and tablet stand, I haven't used anything better. Not from other tablets and not even from many 2-in-1 convertible devices. Up until this point, the keyboard solutions I was presented with were typically floppy affairs that usually needed a hinge built into the tablet to keep the device upright. That made using it as a laptop, on your lap, awful. But with the iPad Pro and Magic Keyboard, you can absolutely use it like you would a conventional laptop. Heck, it even has a USB-C port for you to charge the iPad with, so you can use the iPad's own port for data transfer. The keys themselves are your typical chiclet keys, however. I was kind of hoping for butterfly switches or something more tactile, but this, I think it's still a very solid keyboard, so yeah, it's a minor gripe lah. That said, the trackpad has a bit of a learning curve. Rather than acting like a cursor, it behaves more like an on-screen finger. This resulted in some unexpected and inconsistent interactions across applications, especially ones that were not built, to account for a cursor. But you do get access to a bunch of useful gestures that make it so you don't really have to touch the screen to navigate as long as you remember what the gestures do. Hence the learning curve. Once I was familiar though, I have to say that the experience working on this iPad Pro was definitely really good and 100% better than any of the iPads that I've used before this. But I still wouldn't go as far as to say that it's as good as a desktop computer experience. And this disparity became most obvious to me when it came to file organization and image processing. I am glad that there is now a Files app, and I'm also glad that moving and renaming files in your Files app is very easy and intuitive. But using it, I could immediately tell that it wasn't designed to function the way, say, Windows Explorer was designed to function. Let me give you a simple example. Let's say I want to rename a photo that I took with either my iPhone or one that I downloaded from the internet before I uploaded it back onto searchandshao.com. On a computer, I just need to click on the photo, rename it, and boom, we're good to go. Now on the iPad, first you have to head into the Photos app and then select the photo that you want to rename and save it to your Files app. Then launch the Files app, navigate to where you saved the photo, and then you can rename the photo. Now imagine uploading 30 photos to a gallery page. Of course, if you know an easier way, I'm all ears, but until then, this is still really tedious. Then there's also the disparity between similar apps on the iPad and on a computer. Apps like Google Docs and Photoshop, for example, aren't nearly as intuitive on the iPad as they are on a computer, which can be very frustrating to someone like me who prioritizes speed. And it's not like using mobile apps on the iPad is that much better than on a desktop browser either. Instagram, for example, still doesn't have a proper iPad app, so you're stuck with this terrible ported iPhone version. I guess the silver lining is that in iPadOS 15 it can rotate now, but come on! With how easy it is to offload and touch up photos on the iPad now thanks to the USB-C port, wouldn't having a proper iPad Instagram experience be a logical course of action? And then there is the app that I use most often by far. WhatsApp Web. Like, why isn't there an official app on the iPad yet? When there's even an official app on the freaking Windows Store. Like, I don't understand. And forcing me to use it on Safari in desktop mode is a terrible experience. Now, I can't say that I wasn't expecting some adjustment and compromise when moving to iPad. Plus, I think a lot of this isn't even Apple's fault. They're relying on third-party developers to make the apps work for iPad, and unfortunately, because the market for iPad is so small, I don't think that these improvements or app overhauls are really, a major concern for these app developers. In the month replacing my laptop with the iPad Pro, I was able to adapt to most of these quirks, and when I accepted some of the faults, I definitely was able to use it basically full time. Its form factor is also inherently useful for the non-creative side of my work. Managing my team, leaving notes, signing documents, all of that worked phenomenally on the iPad and Apple Pencil. And if we're talking about this particular combo, I don't even think that I was really the creative that Apple was targeting for this iPad. If you look at their promotional material, I think that they were looking at it more for the more artistic kind. And I can totally see why. But don't take it from me. To really find out if it's worth an artist's time, I got help from one of my friends who is a concept artist for some of the biggest games in the last 5 years.
Hello, my name is Siew Hong. I'm a lead concept artist in Passion Public Games. I've been working in the industry for about 7 years now. I work on games like The Last of Us 2, Injustice 2, Uncharted 4, Uncharted 4 Lost Legacy, and currently I'm working for a game called Gigabash, made by our own company, Passion Public Games, and made in Malaysia so far.
I left the iPad Pro with him for a couple of days just so he could get a feel of what it was like to use it compared to his usual setup.
I think the differences is definitely iPad Pro is more more compact and smaller in size, so I can just bring it around and draw it anywhere I want. I do think that Wacom Cintiq has certain products that's similar, but I think they are still quite chunky and they overheat quite easily compared to the iPad Pro. And I still don't really like the latency in the iPad in the Wacom Cintiq compared to the iPad. And I was quite surprised when I tried out. The iPad Pro actually there's not much of a lagginess, and I don't really experience it in a sense. It's not noticeable. I like the idea of being able to bring it around anywhere I want. Right? Like let's say during meetings, I just want to write something down. I don't need to carry my sketchbook and I need to flip every pages of it. I can just write it down on the iPad and I can just search it back out, where is it? And everything is categorized by dates and category. So it's very convenient as a lead artist to taking care of multiple things at the same time.
Siew Hong was also impressed with the performance and display of the iPad Pro. He really liked how smooth everything was and how color accurate the screen looked.
The only concern I have is the fingerprints, because you'll be touching the screen a lot. So your screen on the iPad Pro itself, it will not be as clean compared to a normal either laptop or a monitor screen. Right? So sometimes you have your fingerprints as an obstacle, in a sense, like you'd be like, it just doesn't feel nice, like it feels very dirty kind of feeling. But in general, I think it's fine, because this is a part of an iPad Pro experience. I felt I don't think there's any way they can solve this problem, unless maybe in the future, I'm not too sure, they create some sort of like fingerprint proof screen. I'm not too sure about that, but if they can solve that, that would be amazing. Yeah.
Not likely. I definitely think that Apple has done an incredible job with making the iPad Pro a legitimate productivity tool. But while I definitely think that I could replace my laptop with this 12.9-inch iPad Pro, it's also the only one that I wouldn't replace my laptop with. The whole point of this experiment for me was to make my setup more portable. It was a pursuit of lightness and smallness, and the bad news is the brand new iPad Pro 12.9-inch is anything but light and small. With the Magic Keyboard and Apple Pencil that makes all of this productivity possible, the iPad Pro 12.9-inch weighs in at almost 1.4 kilograms. That's even heavier than your typical ultra-portable laptop, and is definitely heavier than my daily driver. Plus, its footprint is also so big that it too won't fit into my EDC. Even the 11-inch iPad Pro weighs over 1 kilogram, which is a far cry from the 700 grams of my previous iPad Air. But I guess that's the trade-off if you want the solid build quality of the Magic Keyboard with its robust hinge. Though, word of advice, I'd avoid getting the white colorway because it gets dirty so easily. So now I have a little bit of a dilemma. The whole point I wanted to replace my laptop with an iPad was so that I could have a smaller and lighter alternative. But this iPad is not a whole lot smaller, and it's definitely not lighter. So is there still a reason to replace your laptop with an iPad? If there was, price definitely isn't it. If you want this 1TB iPad Pro 12.9-inch with the M1 processor, you'll have to pony up nearly 8,000 ringgit. for that money, you can get an XPS 13 with an i7 and a 3.5K OLED display. And if you want the Magic Keyboard and Apple Pencil, that brings the price to over 10,000 ringgit, which, at that point you can just buy pretty much any laptop your heart desires. Oh, and if you're an artist like Siew Hong and you were thinking about replacing your whole setup with an iPad, well, here's what he had to say about that.
Personally, I felt that the iPad Pro can't replace a full setup from like a computer. Working on a desktop, like a computer desktop, is better for our posture compared to working on an iPad. Your head is always down. Even though you draw like that, it's just not as convenient as drawing on a computer. But I do see there's a potential of it to produce a final artwork from the iPad Pro itself when I need to. But personally, I would still prefer a desktop, like a full working desktop, because there are a lot more things I can handle in the desktop itself. For example, when I work on design, I like to look for a lot of references. So my tabs will be crazy, there'll be multiple tabs going on. But for iPad Pro, it's possible to do that, but it's a bit more complicated. It's not as streamlined compared to a computer. So that is like the concern I have mainly for an iPad Pro. But for me, I don't see an iPad Pro as my only source of option to make something to final. So I will see it as something for bringing to sketch, or maybe like 50-60%. Then I'll just bring it up to my computer and just finish the final touch-up. So like, for example, client feedback, I'll write down my notes, I'll sketch things out immediately on the go. Maybe a little bit more sketching towards the final if I have the time. I just don't want to sit on my desk. I can just sit on my couch or my living room, or in a cafe in the future when the pandemic is over. So I do see that kind of possibility right there. So it's a more portable device.
So yeah, those are all my thoughts after replacing my laptop with the 12.9-inch M1 iPad Pro. It's definitely the best iPad for the job, but it's also the only iPad that I wouldn't replace my laptop with. How ironic. But anyway, those are my thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts of what you think about using an iPad as a laptop replacement. Can you really live up that with the computer lifestyle? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. But this is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel and click on the notification bell icon so that you don't miss any of our future videos. Yeah. We're also on Facebook, but our home on the internet will always be on searchingchow.com. So I'll see you next time. I'm Rory, and I am signing out.